we're going to be talking more and more as the weeks come up, more and more about ACC football. And we're unfortunately for Tar Heel fans, a lot of negative talk here the last couple of weeks about the North Carolina football program. And where do you see all that headed?
I don't see it heading in a great direction. They are the report to the NCAA and from the NCAA is it looks like it could be pretty serious. Now, it looks like Butch Davis will probably emerge unscathed or relatively unscathed from this, because it does seem like the NCAA didn't say there was anything in terms of lack of institutional control, and that's an important distinction. It looks like whatever blame might be pinned will be pinned on a couple of rogue people, former assistant coach John Blake being one of them, and Carolina's already dealt with him. He's already been relieved of his duties, and at least one tutor, it seems like, maybe also sort of rogue. At least that's the way the report seems to read. But that said, whether there's an impact on Butch Davis directly or not, it's likely there's going to be an impact on the number of scholarships they're able to give out. The allegations here are about as serious as we've seen with Southern California of late. They lost a total of 30 scholarships over 3 years, and everything I'm seeing in terms of speculation about what the ultimate penalty might be in North Carolina, they may be in the range of 25 to 30 scholarships lost over the next 3 years. And what that means is essentially 10 scholarships a year for the next 3 years. And when you're talking about recruiting classes, you can sign at most 25 players. If you're limited to only signing 15 players, you've got to get those 15 players right. When you can sign 25, you can afford to make a couple of reaches, maybe have a kid get injured that can't contribute that you thought was going to be a bigger piece of your puzzle. When you've got 15, you can still do it, but you've got to get those 15 exactly right, and it's so hard to do in recruiting because recruiting is such an inexact science.
How does that factor out into, it's all hypothetical, but how does that factor out into games? If you don't do it right, we could be talking about whereas you might win 2 or 3 games extra, you're going to lose 2 or 3 games extra?
Well, looking at Miami as an example, back in the late 90s, Butch Davis took over a program at Miami. He was on the other side of this. He took over a program that in the mid-90s got in some pretty serious trouble. They went from a national championship contender to a couple of 5-win seasons. And when Butch Davis took them over, I think his first season there, he was 5-6. Now, 4 years later, when they got back to full recruiting strength, they were back in the national championship game. So that tells you can go from national championship level to 5 wins and back to that national championship level because of that impact of that recruiting. It could take a few years to play out too, because it's not just that for 3 years you lose those 10 scholarships. You have smaller senior classes for those 3 years as well, and for a couple of those years you're playing with 15-member junior and senior classes, and that's really in college football. When you have a strong junior and senior classes that are going through, that's when you win your games. It's not your freshmen and sophomores that win you games. They might get out there and do some stuff for you, but your juniors and seniors are the ones that win you football games. So it might not be this year we see the impact. Carolina's recruited very well over recent years. They haven't won a lot to translate that great recruiting. The most wins they've had under Butch Davis is 8 wins a season in his 4 years. But this year you might not see the impact quite as much because the recruiting is not going to be impacted this year. You may see a 1-year postseason bowl ban. I don't think we're going to see that this year. Maybe next year. But what you're going to see is over that longer term, you're going to see some issues there for if it comes as people are expecting. The impact will probably be 2012, 2013, 2014, maybe even 2015, as the program has to deal with lost scholarships. But I think this year, I don't think you're going to see any impact. The fans will certainly talk about it. They'll be gnashing their teeth and wailing about what's going to be coming. But as far as the impact on the field, I don't know that you're going to see that so much this year in Chapel Hill.
And finally, right now we're still 2 months away, I guess, from college football. But if you had to pick a team to reign supreme in 2011, in the ACC, would have been the Hokies.
I think so. That's a safe pick. They have lost a lot. They lost 2/3 of their backfield. They lose Tyrod Taylor, obviously, and some other guys on defense they lose. But I was talking earlier about UVA baseball. They don't rebuild, they reload, and I think that's what we expect to be the case again this year in Blacksburg in football. And we'd all be very surprised. Now, Logan Thomas, as a quarterback, he comes in not battle-tested like Tyrod Taylor, certainly, who played most of his 4 seasons there in Blacksburg at quarterback. And Logan Thomas, as a junior, has only taken a few snaps in mop-up duty in games. But 6'6", 245, highly recruited quarterback out of high school, and maybe in a way, it'll be a different tech offense. It'll be hard to say whether it's a better Tech offense, but he's a guy who will stand back there and be able to pick apart defenses with his arm. Not so much with his feet, but certainly with his arm. And so it'll be a different offense in Virginia Tech in Blacksburg this year, but you wonder, maybe could it be better because he is a more traditional strong-arm quarterback. And Tech's had success with both kinds of quarterbacks. Brian Randall, a running quarterback, Marcus Vick and Michael Vick running quarterbacks. But then Jim Druckenmiller, the first, real big time quarterback there at Virginia Tech, the guy back in the early to mid-90s that, led them to that first Sugar Bowl, for example. He was a big guy who stood back there in the pocket and would pick you apart with his passing. So Tech can win both ways, and we'll certainly see in the next 2 years. Logan Thomas, he'll be one of those guys who will stand back there. But I think Tech's probably the team. Now, Florida State also. Florida State won 10 games last year, and Jimbo Fisher in his second year. I think the folks down in Tallahassee think that they're going to be standing head and shoulders above the rest. I'm not too sure after that. A lot of rebuilding this year. Miami with a new coach, new situation. Georgia Tech has been a top team in the recent years, but I'm seeing some of the preseason books picking them even 5th or 6th in the Coastal Division this year. Maybe a big step back for Paul Johnson's crew. So maybe they're not going to be quite as much in the mix. Clemson with Dabo Swinney has some issues to deal with this year. This could be a make or break year for Dabo Swinney. Maryland emerged last year as a team competing, and then they fire Ralph Friedgen and bring a new coach in. So you have a lot of uncertainty around that. I think Virginia Tech and Florida State may be head and shoulders above the rest, and then we'll see who can maybe emerge as contenders at least to their spots on the throne.